Welcome to the West Ham Weekly. Thank you for joining me. My sincere apologies that I wasn't on live on Monday night. Unfortunately, had another little emergency, but all is well, thankfully. But it took a good part of the evening to sort things out. So my apologies for not being on, but thank you for joining me on this one-off pre-recorded show, the West Ham Weekly. So I don't have the distraction of all your comments, but that's a shame because I like it to be an interactive show. So my apologies that I haven't been able to do this, but I'll bring you up to date. A quick summary of the whole week's worth of West Ham news, or the more salient points. So let's get cracking. First of all, the women's team not in action this week because they're all on international duty. Dagny Brijandsdottir, I can't pronounce her name, continues to have an impressive season in front of goal with Iceland's opener in the 1-1 draw that they played against New Zealand. It was her 38th goal for her country in 112 caps. There are other ladies through in the West Ham women's team also on international duty. So, I think they've all played their games now, and good luck to them. The under-21s have not been in action. They won't play again until the 17th of April when they play Crystal Palace away in the Premier League 2. But all eyes were really, apart from the senior team, are on the under-18s. Congratulations to them when they got through to the final of the FA Youth Cup trophy last Thursday. I went to the game. It was a fantastic game, a really incredible win for the under-18s. They have been inspirational throughout the whole season, and let's hope they cap it with a win in the FA Cup youth final. When it happens, it's going to be on the week leading up to the 29th of April. So do look out for when that game will be held. It will be held at the Emirates, and we're going to be playing Arsenal, who also got through to the final. Arsenal, they beat Man City in extra time, 2-1, but it did have to take Man City to go down a player only after 6 minutes in the game for Arsenal to get through. Look, Arsenal are a decent team, and ironically, we play them in the league on the 15th of April. So it'd be like a sort of a curtain raiser, I guess, to see what they're going to be like. Look, we've already played them once before, and we've beaten them, Arsenal, in the league. So I think we're confident, aren't we, that we're going to do well. Fingers crossed. We haven't won the FA Youth Cup since 1999 when Joe Cole and all those Michael Carrick, etc., were in that team at the time. So we're really looking forward to it, and really fantastic congratulations to the under-18s. Kevin Keane, he was absolutely, and rightly so. He was really proud of the team, putting in a superb performance, played in front of 7,000 fans on Thursday night. It was a 6-1 victory, against Southampton. Divine Mbama scored a hat-trick. Captain Gideon Kadua got a goal. Callum Marshall also got a goal. And substitute Favour Fawumni also netted in a stunning show by the Young Irons. Kevin Keane said that Southampton are a decent team, but showed tonight that we've got some decent players in the West Ham under-18s, and they've got bright futures ahead of them. And he said, hopefully, they'll play for a lot longer for West Ham at the stadium. We played at the London Stadium. It was suggested that there were no fewer than 36 scouts at the game, watching some of the players in action. And of course, Divine Mbama will be one of those players that the scouts were keeping an eye on. He was incredible. A hat-trick, a superb hat-trick. But there are other players as well who demonstrated that they have possibly a bright future at West Ham. Right back, Ryan Battram looked really energetic as a defender with pace to burn, certainly good attacking intent and a good defender as well. Midfielders, Patrick Kelly, Lewis Orford were very decent in midfield, and they put in good displays, solid performances in the middle of the park. George Earthy, another exciting prospect, another in the squad, as well as Callum Marshall, who is, just a lively, young, energetic attacking forward as well. With Mbama getting a hat trick and looking likely to be to have a long career at West Ham in the higher end of football, one might think that there wasn't anyone else worth mentioning, but there was. And Kevin Keane picked out Captain Gideon Kadua for special mention. Kadua is an interesting player. He's a very inspirational captain. He created 2 goals on the night, scored a fantastic goal himself. Keane went on to say that he's a super lad, someone who the younger lads look up to in the academy. He's a local who's worked his way up, a skillful right winger who made his debut for the under-18s in a 4-1 win over Reading back in 2021. He's been with the academy since 2017 after being scouted playing for Newham District. A 6-week trial ensued, during which Kadua scored against Luton Town, earning his place in the academy at the club. The 2021 season, Kadua's first as a regular for the under-18s. As a youngster, he made his opportunities count, scoring 13 goals in 28 appearances. In December 2022, he signed his first professional contract with the club. He's demonstrated just how skillful he is with pace and awareness, and there's certainly an eye for goal. When we sometimes question whether the academy is worth having, especially during the season when we lost a couple of players from the academy at the beginning of the season, as well as in January, a lot of people were asking, what's the point of the academy? But Keane truly believes we've got some really good young bright players in the under-18 squad, and it's fantastic that he picked out a number of players for special mention as well, with Kadua being one of them. He's going to be leading, quite possibly, Kadua, he'll be leading the under-18s in the FA Youth Cup final, as I said, which is going to be played at the Emirates, and it's got to be played by the 29th of April, so we expect an announcement of the date to come up pretty soon. Our last appearance, as I said, was way back in 1999, included a team like Stephen Bywater, Adam Newton, as I've already mentioned, Michael Carrick and Joe Cole, and we beat Coventry City 9-0 on aggregates in that final. But good luck to them. It's only one game rather than 2 legs, so we're looking forward to that as well. Superb performance for the young lads. What about some player news? Well, we've got a few players, as you know, out on loan. Nikola Vlasic was a 62nd minute sub when he came on for Torino in their 1-0 defeat at home to Roma at the weekend. He couldn't help to get his team back in the game. They scored Roma 1-0, their goal on the 8th minute after Torino conceded a penalty. The second half of the season has not been as great for Vlasic as the first half. I suggested last week that the Italian club may find it difficult to get the funds available to buy the player outright. At the end of the season, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Vlasic, whether the Torino may want to keep him or whether they're going to send him back to West Ham. With regards to other players on loan, Arthur Masuaku, he was again inspirational in the game that he played at the weekend for Turkish lead side Besiktas, where they beat relegation-threatened Giresunspor 3-1 at home at the weekend. Masuaku provided an assist for the second goal. It was Besiktas' 5th win in a row, which saw them climb to second place in the Turkish Super League, but a distant 8 points behind leaders Galatasaray. It's a Champions League qualifying spot for Arthur and his loan team, but they have played 2 more games over third place Fenerbahce, who are only 1 point behind them. That was Arthur's 25th league appearance for the club, and if the reports are correct, now apparently they can make him a permanent signing at Besiktas. However, after the game, the manager made a confusing statement suggesting that no decision has yet been taken to sign the defender permanently, despite admitting that there was a 25-game clause in his loan agreement. So I guess we're just going to have to wait and see in the coming weeks whether it transpires, whether Masuaku becomes a permanent player for the Turkish club or not. All I can say is Arthur, if you do go permanently, you found a home in Turkey, you'll be playing European football of some level or another, whether it be Champions League or Europa League. You've given me many painful moments wearing a West Ham shirt, but the best memory I've ever had was last season when he scored the winner against Chelsea, and I ran up and down the Bobby Moore lower, shocked more than anything else. Who else have we got? We've got Nathan Trott. He's been on duty as well for his loan club, Vejle BK, in the Danish League One. But they played a quarterfinal cup tie against the best club in Denmark, I guess, FC Copenhagen, last Friday. With the best side in Denmark visiting the Division 1 side, and with a 2-0 lead from the first game, Vejle had it all to do. Trott played his part in keeping Copenhagen at bay, but despite a gallant performance by him and the team, they couldn't get a breakthrough to score against Copenhagen. Like Kinnear, Trott has made the number one spot his own at the club in Denmark. He was back in goal again at the weekend, played against Vendisel in the league on Friday, which also ended 0-0. But good for him. He's doing really, really well for the club. Another player on loan, Connor Coventry, was involved in two crucial games for Championship side Rotherham over the bank holiday. On the 7th of April, he created an assist for one of the goals in the 3-1 win at home over West Brom. Then on bank holiday Monday, he was back in action again against Norwich, who they drew 0-0 against. Both West Brom and Norwich are chasing playoff places, so they were good results for Rotherham, who have steadily been pulling away from the relegation zone over the past few months. The 4 points gained has taken them up to 18th in the league, with 4 points above third from bottom Reading. Coventry has been a great addition to the side, adding some great stability to the centre of midfield. It's a tough ask for the player, but he's coming through this test admirably, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Connor Coventry next season at West Ham. Other players, Lucas Paquetá missed the game against Fulham at the weekend. He picked up an injury, a knock in the 5-1 defeat against Newcastle. Paquetá trained the day before, but his foot was swollen and it wasn't worth him taking the risk to be played in the game against Fulham. It's 50-50 whether he returns for the game against Ghent on Thursday in the Europa Conference League. But if he does recover in time, it's probably more likely he'll be playing against Arsenal next Sunday. That's if he regains his spot. And David Moyes will have a tough decision to make whether he calls him back into the side or not. Scamacca, we also know, has been out injured, and we don't know if he'll be back for Ghent either as well. Speculation last week whether Scamacca's injury was a cover for the player not being happy, not being picked to play against Southampton is kind of wide of the mark. But it's not the case. We now understand that Scamacca's injury on his knee means he's been unavailable for team selection, and it's quite possible he won't be available for either the Ghent game or the Arsenal game coming up at the weekend. So we'll look out for that, and I'll give you further news as we go along. Right. Well, what else? Well, of course, I'm going to talk about the games against Newcastle and against Fulham, but I'm not really going to go into dwell too much on the games. We know what a poor performance it was against Newcastle and all the errors that led to the 5-1 defeat. And then we know what gritty performance that was put in against Fulham. And we know that we only had something like 28% possession in that game, etc. But the outcome was that we got a vital 3 points. But this is more about, I'm going to talk about David Moyes, really, and about West Ham as a club against all the sort of the negativity that's going on, or that has been going on throughout the season. West Ham seems to have developed a siege mentality, which would usually be reserved for external factors such as referees or VAR making awful decisions against the club. However, this season, the siege mentality seems to be against the press and social media, who've been driving the narrative of Moyes out for most of the season. It has indeed been a dreadful season with poor results. We can't deny it. Poor results, poor performances, and poor decisions made by David Moyes throughout the season. Many fans who have generally been mild-mannered about the managerial situation have probably slowly drifted towards the Moyes out mantra. And there are now likely to be more fans who would like to see him leave rather than wanting him to stay. Many fans have but as the season has progressed, the club, David Moyes, and even some of the players now seem determined to prove that there is harmony at the club. And the more social media, the more the pundits, the more reporters push the Moyes out rhetoric, the more the club is digging in and backing the manager. The game against Fulham seemed to highlight the divide where one side, the press, the social media channels, etc., including this one, have suggested that it would be David Moyes' last game if we lost. I even suggested that, from what I was told, that even if he drew, that probably wouldn't have been enough to keep his job. And yet, despite winning, there was an unfurling of a Moyes out banner at the game against Fulham. And also, I even got included in this when we subbed Danny Ings instead of subbing Antonio. The fans were singing or chanting, "You don't know what you're doing." Now, goodness knows what would have happened if we'd actually lost or drawn that game. Um, and when asked about the banner, David Moyes replied, "I can't really answer that, can I? They can do that if they choose." With reference to the angry chants, Moyes believes that they were unhelpful. Asked if that could add pressure onto the team, Moyes said, yes, it can do. But he went on to say the players, the response, the way that they've gone about their performance after the midweek result, they pulled together to get the result that we needed, and they did magnificently, led by Declan Rice. It was a really good, strong performance. As Moyes was walking off after the game against Fulham, he didn't acknowledge the fans. Normally, he would go over and he'd applaud them. And some people came out and said that that was wrong of him to do. But I wonder if it was. If you've got a Moyes out banner standing there and you're being chanted at that you don't know what you're doing, etc., is the first thing that you're going to do go over to the fans and applaud them? Look, I don't know. I kind of don't blame him. I get it. I get why he wouldn't have wanted to do that. But interestingly, as he was going towards the cottage, he noticed that the board, Karen Brady, shaking her fist, and he shaked his fist back jubilantly. And this kind of highlighted for me that there does feel like there is a bit of a siege mentality at the club. It feels as if it's the board, the players, the manager on one side, and social media and reporters, etc., on the other side. And it seems to be a battle. You know, there's a lot of noise going on. There has been a lot of noise going on throughout the season about Moyes, etc. And I've said, you know, the results haven't been good. Some of the decisions he's made have not been great. Our tactics have not been great, etc. So I get that there's the sort of the Moyes out mantra. It's taken me, you know me, I've been for quite a while trying to sort of look at the positives, but even I got to a point a few months ago where I said it was getting a bit too much. But I wonder, you know, David Moyes, even David Moyes has said, you know, it doesn't help this kind of rhetoric. Declan Rice has suggested as well that they're way behind, that they're behind the manager and that they're playing for him. And as he said a few recently, you know, you just shut out the noise and you go about your business. And I guess that's what Moyes is doing and the board are doing. You know, they're not listening to what's going on. You know, we've heard so many stories of his last chance, etc., etc. You know, managers are being lined up and so on, but nothing has materialized. I wonder, I don't know what might have happened if we had lost the game at the weekend, but Moyes is still in his job and he's still, it looks like with 9 games to go, it doesn't look like that's going to make it's going to change now between now and the rest of the season. But Moyes made a big statement, didn't he? I think he made another statement with his team selection at the weekend. Now, for some people, it would look as if Moyes was just resting players, but I wonder if it went a bit further than that because it didn't go unnoticed that there was not one summer signing in the starting 11 on Saturday against Forest. Look, I knew he wasn't going to drop Fabianski, despite the 2 errors that he made in the game against Newcastle. Fabianski was going to keep his place, and what a superb save he made in the second half to keep us at 1-0 up. You know, Areola must be wondering what's it got to take to get back into the team. He must be pretty disappointed and he must feel pretty let down that yet again, even though Fabianski had a poor game against Newcastle, he kept his place. Kehrer was an obvious drop for Soufal. I thought that probably should have happened sooner anyway. I didn't think Agerd would be dropped, but there you go. Ogbonna got back into the team and he played extremely well against alongside Kurt Zuma. And he's been superb for us, hasn't he, Ogbonna, in the 8 seasons or so that he's been with us. Emerson, who's done nothing wrong, was a surprise for me. I was surprised that that he was dropped for Creswell. Didn't seem to be a good reason for that to happen. Souček, you know, again, many people sort of on his back, and suggesting that he shouldn't be starting. But you know what? He made a massive contribution in the game. It's stuff that gets unseen by fans, unnoticed, because what we're expecting from Souček is for him to score 8, 9, 10 goals a season. If he doesn't do that, people are saying he's not doing his job. But he actually had a pretty good game against Fulham. So it kind of didn't surprise me that maybe Flynn Downs didn't come in for him. What I did suggest, maybe a tactical change, was Benrahma dropping, and I thought Cornet may have started. But interestingly, David Moyes went with his tried and trusted again, Pablo Fornals. Barely got on a look in this season, but yet here he was being called back into the side alongside. basically, apart from Danny Ings, that was last season's side. He had a side out there that were true to him. I guess what it probably highlighted, and maybe what Moyes was maybe trying to highlight himself, was that the new players that we got have still got to learn his system, his process, etc. Whereas the old players know his system, know what they needed to do in order to get a result. It wasn't a pretty outcome. It was a dire game. 22 or 28% possession against Fulham. But they didn't have much in them to sort of hurt us. They had a couple of chances, like I said. Fabianski pulled off a great save, but other than that, they didn't seem to look like they were going to hurt us. It was a resilient performance from West Ham United, something that I guess we needed at this stage of the season. What's interesting is, I think it was a statement made by Moyes. I think he made a massive statement of intent as to where he's going to go from here with the league. Look, last season we were crying out for a big squad to be able to compete on all fronts. This season we've got a big squad to be able to compete on all fronts. But I think it's going to be quite interesting to see what Moyes does in the league games from here on in. It kind of surprised me that it's taken him this long to mix it a bit more. I think it felt maybe he was under pressure to actually play all the new or as many of the new signings as he could on a regular basis, even though we could see it wasn't working. After all, us fans, social media, etc., were, even the press were impatient with him early in the season by asking where are the new signings, why they're not getting more game time, etc., etc. And now that he started to play more than new signings, it didn't change. We weren't doing well. The results weren't changing at all. And here he is now suggesting this is maybe the way forward for the rest of the season in the league. I know the players I've got from last season. I know what they need to do. And he said we want to be a team that plays more expansively, but now's unfortunately not the time. Backs against the walls. The results are much more important than the performance. And if we continue to put in performances like we did, we're likely to pick up a few more points here and there. Rice said we need 2 more wins. For me, I still think we need 3. I said that before the Southampton game, I said we need 5, and we've got 2 out of the 5 so far. We beat Southampton, and now we beat Fulham. We've just got to go out there and put a few more results together in order to get completely away from safety. To safety, sorry, should I say. Declan Rice came out in support of the manager after the Fulham game, and many will immediately say, well, of course he would. He's the captain. He's not going to say anything derogatory. But I don't know, I think after the game, Rice said, we're employed by the club to go and put out a performance, and today I think we've done just that. There's no question asked over us fighting for the manager or not. I think if you see us out there today, that's a team that will do anything to win the game for the manager. He didn't have to go that far, but he actually said it. He made a point of saying, talking about David Moyes. Rice didn't have to go that far. He went on to say, I think every time we've been in a position where there's been a lot of noise around David Moyes' job, we've stepped up and we've won the game. I've just said this inside the dressing room. To bounce back like we did from Wednesday night, that's a top reaction. That's what a good team does. They don't dwell on the past. They move forward. And since Wednesday, we said we can't wait for the next game. And it's good that it came so soon because they could put a performance in that got the points. Okay, it wasn't pretty, but it got the points. Even stalwart Ogbonna said, I think we needed to do something to bounce back. And the thing is, we can never say we don't have character. And that's another thing. The 11 that David Moyes picked against Fulham had a lot of character in them. Much maligned Aaron Creswell, much maligned Thomas Soucek. Players like that. Even Fornals, when he's got his chance, people are saying he's not the player he was. They all put in performances and they showed their character. He said, Ogbonna, for a long time, since I joined West Ham, they've shown character, and that's the main thing and the first thing. The old players always show me something that can come naturally to us. For me, even for the players and for the club, it was really important to show character. So, and even Fornals came out and put that thing about the old guard, sort of coming to the fore as well. So you could see it was important for them. It was important for these players to show to come up and be counted, and I think maybe that's the way it might happen from here on in between now and the end of the season, and that is a statement from Moyes. Does that mean that he's got a problem with the new signings? Look, I don't know. Look, two of the 8 signings definitely, from what we understand, were injured, so they weren't available anyway. But there's going to be a few players that are going to be disappointed. I guess a Gerd might be disappointed for having lost his place. But just like I said recently about Soucek, sometimes you have to be taken out the firing line to give yourself that refresh in order to get back again. So Gerd might be disappointed. Cornet's been injured for most of the season. Downs is still, learning his trade, and I think Downs has been used in a good way. He's never let us down. Areola will be disappointed, I guess, as well. I think of most of them, Areola will be the most disappointed. He'll be wondering what he has to do in order to become a regular in the team. So I think it's a statement of intent. I think we do now have a squad that's going to take us forward. And maybe, just maybe, Moyes might use most of the new signings, the summer signings, in the game against Ghent, those who'll be available to him. And he may stay with the old guard, the rear guard, for the league games. If it gets us what we need, wins in the Premier League to stay up, as well as wins in the Europa Conference, are you going to argue with that? I don't know. Look, I'm going to be out in Belgium over the next few days, so I'll try and bring you a few videos, etc. I hope you've enjoyed this. Like I said, I do apologise for not being able to go on live, but I will be back next Monday. Absolutely, definitely. No matter what happens, I'll be back next Monday, but I'll be back in between as well. I'll do a few shows, a few pre-recorded. I'll try and maybe do a live show when I'm out in Belgium as well. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all very soon.